Shalom, everyone. This is going to be the last video of the Book of Jubilees because we are literally at the end of the Book of Jubilees now. So this is going to be about how slavery started in Egypt. You guys are probably wondering, how did slavery even started in Egypt after after um after the success when the children of Israel or Yasharal dwelt in the land and they were all fruitful and everything. So you are going to hear the details from the book of Jubilees. This is going to be Jubilees chapter 46 through the end of 48. It describes in details about what exactly happened and how slavery in Egypt even started in the first place. Now, I hope you all enjoyed this message. And by the way, this message is literally a hand-in-hand message with the very last message I did. Just talking about, more details about Joseph, of course. So, so this right here goes right after that one. It's like a pile on where the previous message goes into this message. So yeah, the last message was the more details about Joseph. So this is going to be about how slavery in Egypt started. So I left off in the last video just to summarize, how Joseph was sold into slavery by his brothers. He went to Egypt. He eventually became a ruler in Egypt next to Pharaoh, and, saved Egypt from famine, and, brought all his family back to Egypt, all that stuff. So we left off in the part where they have all, the famine was over. The 7 years of famine just got over, and they were all, dwelling in that land. All of Jacob's sons and Jacob's grandsons all dwelling in the land. So that's where we're at right now in this story. So now I'm going to start off by reading chapter 46 in the book of Jubilees. And it came to be after Jacob died, the children of Yasharal or Israel multiplied in the land of Egypt, and they became a great nation, and they were of one accord in heart, so that brother loved brother, and every man helped his brother, and they increased abundantly and multiplied exceedingly 10 weeks of years, all the days of the life of Joseph. So 10 weeks of years, that's 70 years. So they were in Egypt, they were increasing, bearing children, and, getting more and more populated in the land. So they all just kept increasing and increasing for 70 years. So there was no adversary nor any evil all the days of the life of Joseph, which he lived after his father Jacob. For all the Egyptians honored the children of Yasharal all the days of the life of Joseph. So, everything was all good in the land of Egypt. Everyone was getting along with everyone. The Egyptians and the Yasharites getting along with each other. Everything was good. All right. Now, and Joseph died, being 110 years old, and he lived 17 years in the land of Canaan, and 10 years he was a servant, and 3 years in prison, and 8 years he was under the sovereign, ruling all the land of Egypt. And he died, and all his brothers, and all that generation. Oh, the whole generation just died. Joseph and all the other 11 brothers, they all just died. So here we go. And he commanded the children of Yasharal before he died that they should carry his bones with them when they went out from the land of Egypt, And he made them swear regarding his bones, for he knew that the Egyptians would not again take and bury him in the land of Canaan. For Macharon, the sovereign of Canaan, while dwelling in the land of Ashur or Assyria, fought in the valley with the sovereign of Egypt and slew him there, and pursued after the Egyptians to the gates of Ermon. And he was not able to enter, for a new sovereign, had become a sovereign of Egypt. So now we got a whole new sovereign ruling the land. And he was stronger than the previous Pharaoh. Now we got a new Pharaoh. And he returned to the land of Canaan, and the gates of Egypt were closed, and none went out and none came into Egypt. So literally, Egypt had borders. Nobody was able to come out of Egypt. Nobody was able to come into Egypt. So they had strong borders, all right. And Joseph died in the 46th Jubilee in the 6th week in the 2nd year. And they buried him in the land of Egypt, and his brothers died after him. And the sovereign of Egypt went out to battle with the sovereign of Canaan in the 47th Jubilee in the 2nd week in the 2nd year. And the children of Yasharal brought out all the bones of the children of Jacob, except for the bones of Joseph, and they buried him in the field in the cave of Machpelah in the mountain. And the majority returned to Egypt, but a few of them remained in the mountains of Hebron, and Amram your father remained with him. And the sovereign of Canaan was victorious over the sovereign of Egypt, and he closed the gates of Egypt. And he devised an evil plan against the children of Yasharal of afflicting them. And he said to the people of Egypt, see, the people of the children of Yasharal have increased and multiplied more than we. Now they're starting to get jealous that there is more Yasharalites in the land than they are Egyptians. All right, here we go. See, the children of Yasharal have increased and multiplied more than we. Come, let us deal wisely with them before they become too many, and let us afflict them with slavery before battle comes upon us, and before they also fight against us. And maybe they shall join themselves with our enemies and go up out of our land, for their hearts and faces are towards the land of Canaan. So yeah, the Egyptians know that they were going to go to Canaan eventually. And he appointed over them slave masters to afflict them with slavery. And they built strong cities for Pharaoh, and Pethom and Ramesses. And they built all the walls and all the fortifications which had fallen in the cities of Egypt. And they made them serve with harshness. And the more they dealt evilly with them, the more they increased and multiplied. So the more harsh the slavery, the more they bared children and kept increasing. All right. And the people of Egypt loathed the children of Yasharal. Chapter 47 of the book of Jubilees. In the 7th week, in the 7th year, in the 47th Jubilee, your father went out from the land of Canaan, and you were born in the 4th week, in the 6th year, in the 48th Jubilee. This was the time of tribulation of the children of Yasharal. Okay, now you notice it said you and your. This is literally speaking directly to Moses now. So now they're telling the story towards Moses directly. So anywhere it says you or your now, this is talking about Moses. So I'm going to read the verse 1 in chapter 47 again. In the 7th week, in the 7th year, in the 47th Jubilee, your father, which is Moses' father, went out from the land of Canaan, and you were born in the 4th week in the 6th year, and the 48th Jubilee. This was the time of tribulation of the children of Yasharal. And Pharaoh, the sovereign of Egypt, issued a command regarding them that they would throw all their male children which were born into the river. And for 7 months they threw them in until the day that you were born, Moses. And your mother hid you for 3 months, and they informed regarding her. But she made an ark for you, and covered it with pitch and asphalt, and placed it in the reeds on the banks of the river, and she placed you in it 7 days. And your mother came by night and nursed you. By day, Miriam, your sister, guarded you from the birds. And in those days, um, Tharamuth, the daughter of Pharaoh, came to bathe in the river, and she heard your voice crying, and she told her female servants to bring you out, and they brought you to her. And she took you out of the ark, and she had compassion on you. And your sister said to her, shall I go and call to you one of the Hebrew women to nurse and suckle this infant for you? And she said, go. And she went and called your mother, Jochebed, and she gave her wages, and she nursed you. Yeah, this is interesting. And afterwards, when you were grown up, they brought you to the daughter of Pharaoh, and you became her son. And Amram, your father, taught you writing. And after you had completed 3 weeks, and they brought you into the royal court, and you were 3 weeks of years at court until the time when you went out from the royal court and saw an Egyptian smiting your friend who was of the children of Yasharal, and you slew him and hid him in the sand. And on the second day you found 2 of the children of Yasharal striving together, and you said to him who was doing the wrong, why do you smite your brother? And he was wroth and displeased, and said, who made you a prince and judge over us? Do you think to kill me as you killed the Egyptian yesterday? And you feared and fled on the account of these words. And on the 6th year of the third, and this is now chapters 48 in the book of Jubilee. In the 6th year, the 3rd week of the 44th Jubilee, you departed and dwelt in the land of Midian 5 weeks and 1 year, and you returned to Egypt in the 2nd week of the 2nd year, the 50th Jubilee. And you yourself know what he spoke to you on Mount Sinai, and what Prince Mastema desired to do with you when you were returning into Egypt on the way when you met him at the lodging place. And did he not with all his power seek to slay you and deliver the Egyptians out of your hand when he saw you, when you were sent to execute right ruling and vengeance on the Egyptians? I deliver you out of his hand, and you performed the signs and wonders, and you were sent to perform in Egypt against Pharaoh and all his house, and against his servants and his people. And Yahuwah executed a great vengeance on them for Yasharal's sake, and smote them through blood and frogs, and gnats and dogflies, and evil boils breaking out in sores, and their cattle by death, by hailstones, and by these he destroyed all that grew for them, and by locusts which devoured the remnant, which he had been left by hail, and by darkness, and of the firstborn of men of beasts, and all their idols, Yahuwah took vengeance and burned them with fire. So obviously it's talking about, now it's talking about the time period after Moses was trying to warn Pharaoh to get out, let my people go, to, get out of Egypt. This was when the plagues came upon Egypt, of course. And all was sent through your hand, that you should declare these words before they were done. And you spoke with the sovereign of Egypt before all his servants and before his people. It all took place according to your words, 10 great and terrible judgments came on the land of Egypt, that you might execute vengeance on it for Yasharal. And Yahuwah did all for Yasharal's sake, according to his covenant, which he had ordained with Abraham, and he would take vengeance on them, as they had brought them by force into bondage. And the prince of Meshtema stood up against you and sought to cast you into the hands of Pharaoh, and he helped the Egyptian magicians, and they stood up and wrought before you. And the evils indeed we permitted them to work, but the remedies we did not allow to be wrought by their hands. And Yahuwah smote them with the evil sores, and they were not able to stand, for we destroyed them so that they could not perform a single sign. But despite all signs and wonders, the prince of Meshtema was not put to shame, because he strengthened himself and cried to the Egyptians to pursue after you with all the powers of the Egyptians, with their chariots and with their horses, with all the hosts of the peoples of Egypt. And I stood before the Egyptians and Yasharal, and we delivered Yasharal out of his hand and out of the hand of his people, and Yahuwah brought them through the midst of the sea, as if it were a dry land. And all the peoples whom he had brought to pursue over Yasharal, Yahuwah threw them into the midst of the sea, into the depths of the abyss beneath the children of Yasharal, even as the people of Egypt had thrown their children into the river. So yeah, obviously their consequence of being drowned in the river was a consequence of making the children of Yasharal drown in the river. It's all part of what goes around comes around. Now, he took vengeance on 1 million of them. Wow, that's a lot of people. 1 million Egyptians. And 1,000 strong and energetic men were destroyed on account of one nursing child and the children of your people, which they have thrown into the river. And on the 14th day, and on the 15th, on the 16th, on the 17th, and on the 18th, the prince of Meshtema was bound and in prison behind the children of Yasharal, that he might not accuse them. And on the 19th, we let them loose, and that they might help the Egyptians and pursue the children of Yasharal. And he hardened their hearts and made them stubborn. And the plan was devised by Yahuwah, that he might smite the Egyptians and cast them into the sea. And on the 14th, we bound them, that he might not accuse the children of Yasharal on the day when they asked the Egyptians for goods and garments and objects of silver and objects of gold, objects of bronze, in order to plunder the Egyptians in return for the bondage which they had forced them to serve. And we did not lead the children of Yasharal from Egypt empty-handed. All right, so that is it for chapter 48 in the book of Jubilees. And that's it for the reading. And that is going to be it for the whole entire book of Jubilees, all the previous videos, and today. I know chapter 49 and chapter 50 are as 2 chapters of the book of Jubilees. But these chapters are literally the same exact things you see in like Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. Chapter 49 is just talking about keeping Passover, keeping the appointed times. And then chapter 50 is simply about keeping the Sabbath. Those things we already know about. So now that is it for the book of Jubilees. So I hope you all enjoyed this whole series. So far in my YouTube channel, I've posted subjects from the book of Enoch, and now I did the book of Jubilees. The next videos I'm gonna start posting subjects from the book of Jasher. So I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Shalom, everyone. And if you have a comment, definitely feel free to ask. All right. Have a great day, and shalom, everyone.